All right, there's not really a right way for me to begin this, but the more I think about how to structure this video, the more I make things too complicated. And I figured that the best way to do this is for me to just hit the record button and just to begin. Um, my goal today with this little mini lecture, if I would call it, is to talk about the healing process, what healing really is, what does it mean for somebody to be sick, what are the challenges that one must overcome within the parameters of the healing process, and simply just to be able to connect my words in a simple enough way so a child could understand what I'm trying to say. Today we're going to be talking about healing and how healing is never a linear process. It is never really a point A to point B. It is the road that you travel through the healing process. You can never really understand the path. You never really see your point A and point B. The road is never clear, right? You kind of know the direction that you want to go as far as healing, right? You know that you're not feeling well. Maybe your thoughts are a little bit sluggish. You're not as energetic. So you already could kind of feel that something isn't functioning right. Maybe you can't really pinpoint what the feeling is or what the situation is per se, but something innately, maybe your soul is speaking to yourself saying, well, shit, something feels off. Something is not functioning the way it's supposed to function, but you can't really pinpoint what that is, right? So then you are caught in this perpetual cycle of mundane motions that kind of get the days going, and the days keep going without you really being able to tap in. You don't really see the meaning and purpose of your existence. You simply just go through the motions, and you're trying to acquire something that you think might make you happy, or you might think that you're getting closer to something, but you realize once you acquire it, you only set up something that you strive for next. So it's never really a place where you arrive to say that, okay, I've done and I'm accomplished, I feel healthy. And for some reason, something is never enough, right? Something is never enough. And it's our desire to continuously keep going, right? We're never really and same goes with the healing process too. You never really arrive at a place to where you say, I'm healed now, I'm done. It's always a work where you never really arrive at a place. You obviously get to a higher place where you see things a little bit differently. You have a clearer perspective. You're able to have more energy, and you feel more vital in life. You feel like rejuvenated when you're healthy. And that definitely gives you a more clear vision on life. You're able to perceive things in a different way. You're able to treat people in a different way. You're able to treat your body in a different way. And the first thing is understanding that healing is never really point A to point B. That the journey could be many left turns, many right turns, many wrong decisions that lead to the right decisions. It's a lot of trial and error, right? It's a lot of experimental process. It's a lot of challenging process too, because you're essentially, I want you to imagine you are sculpting yourself, whether it's your psyche that you're exploring or your physical health, whatever that is, it's you are carving yourself into something that you are doing. Basically, you are shaping yourself, your reality. And at the same time, if you are trying to carve out something and trim off the pieces that you don't need, shedding off those pieces away, like a marbler or a sculptor is shaving those little layers off. It's you're trying to get to the core essence of yourself, and that is why the journey is never really a straight up process. It's more circular. And the way Carl Jung explains it is like a mandala. Every piece of the process leads to the center of the mandala. So every piece could be the center, and every piece leads to the center. And once you pretty much chip away all the little pieces and shed off the things that are essentially holding you back from accessing the inner core of yourself, that process alone is going to be very painful. It is, I mean, think about it. It's you're chipping away pieces of yourself, and in a way you're going to have to let go of attachments, right? Let go of maybe people that are not healthy for you, maybe places, maybe the environment. You're going to have to completely establish a new lifestyle, especially if you're really sick and really struggling. You're going to have to let go of the idea that you might have to change your environment. You might have to change the people that you associate yourself with. All these changes need to take place in order for you to detach from the old sick version of yourself and allow your body to be reborn into this new version of yourself, which is healthy and vital. And it's something new that you're not really used to, that new version of yourself. And that is why it is so easy to snap back like a rubber band, right? It's snap back into our old sick version of ourselves, because we have made that particular situation normal for us. It's scary to say that it is normal for us in this time and age to feel sick and to feel disillusioned, to feel purposeless, to feel lost. And that has become our new normal. It's become our new normal to drink 3 cups of coffee to get our day going. It's become our new normal to be overly too stressed and overly consuming too much information and not really listen to our inner guide within us, not really trusting our decisions. We're pretty much we're looking for answers, but we're looking for these answers outside of ourselves. We're not really we are so disconnected from our faculties of listening, from our faculties of feeling, of seeing, and we're looking for the answers outside of ourselves. We're not really trying to seek and peel all those layers, like go and follow those pieces of the mandala to the inner core layer of ourselves. And when we do that, that requires a lot of stripping away, a lot of peeling. And when I say the word peeling, I imagine peeling a layer, which is almost like you're ripping away the fibers of that attachment, right? And sometimes peeling off those layers could be very painful. I mean, I could imagine an onion being peeled, and if I put myself in the shoes of an onion being ripped apart, would be very painful, I would imagine, right? If I peel the skin off a spider, or if a spider has to, or a snake, right? It's just, if a snake is shedding off its skin, it's got to be a painful process, right? If a spider is releasing its exoskeleton, it's got to be a fucking painful process. If an eagle is bashing its face, trying to break its beak so he could survive another 40 years, that's got to be a painful process. But I also have to allow myself to go through this process and and acknowledge myself, not really run away from the process of growth. Is whether I want it or not, to some level I am going through that process. But I could also set time in my day, let's say, to allow myself to actually go through that process. And sometimes for me, especially now that I travel a lot, I for the last 7 years, if you guys don't know much about my situation, I want to introduce myself. My name is Phil, and for the last 7 years, I've been learning to detach, learning to tap into my core, to listen and trust myself and my actions. And I have made some decisions in my life that I can't really say that I have followed anybody leading through my process. I mostly followed my own intuition, and it was very hard at the beginning to trust my own process and to take extensive times off, like months at a time, where I just sit and meditate and completely retreat from society and just sit with myself and my own boredom, and punch through on the other side and have some realizations, have some healing moments, have some moments of clarity, and facing my fears and my challenges. And this has all given me a lot of precious moments of enlightenment, where I'm able to pinpoint those moments. And I've had moments in time where I felt that so at peace with myself that I almost felt like I could die. I could die today, and I felt like my life has led up to some purpose. My life has had some meaning. And for me to be able to face the cycle of death, to really acknowledge, and I've had some really profound dreams, because sometimes I sit and I ask these deeper questions about life, and I allow myself to actually be bored about my experience. And when I'm asking the questions, I'm realizing the answers might not come in straight up, but the answers always present themselves. I've realized that if I am asking the question, if I am being persistent with asking the question, I am at some point getting the answers. When I am tapped into receiving that information, right? If I'm fully tapped into listening to everything that is around me, if I'm asking the questions, sometimes the answers present themselves through information that I consume online, through videos that I watch, or through me being around nature. Sometimes animals speak. Sometimes I have visions and voices in my dreams that present themselves and give me these answers. So I feel like this information is worth it more to me. I see a lot of value in this information, and it's been hard, and I've been challenged a lot with people's opinions, especially my closest people, like my parents, questioning my actions and always asking me when I'm gonna get a real job. And over the last 7 years, I've had jobs to make myself enough money to sustain myself, and if I wanted to take time off, I could really dive in fully and explore the inner realms of my psyche, and peel more layers, and get as close as I can to the core essence of myself. And that is when I've realized that is when I could tap into the healer that is within me. I've realized that healing isn't something that happens outside of me, even though tools like breath work or fasting or sticking to a routine might be beneficial for me to tap into the inner healer, but it's It's not until I realize that the healing comes from inside, and once I'm able to fully tap into the healer archetype within myself, that is when I could actually activate the the healing aspects of this whole intelligence of this body. So now I have to realize that fear is the first thing that I have to overcome in order for me to step outside of my parameters, right? Outside of my box, outside of my thinking. And if I'm seeking something different, let's say, I mean, Einstein said this famous quote by him saying that if you are doing the same things and expect different results, then that's the definition of you being an idiot. You being an idiot if you expect different results by you doing the same actions and repeating the same cycles, but you expect something different. That is the definition of an idiot. And for me to be able to address myself as, okay, I'm definitely seeking something more. I'm definitely seeking a state of being where I function, I'm able to think clearly, I'm able to be more connected with life, I'm able to be the best version for people and places and animals and everything around me. I want to be the best version of myself, to be able to hold the space for people or places, or just be useful. Just be useful. And the more I tap into my inner self, the more I'm able to see and realize that if I keep doing the same stuff but I expect different results, then I'm not getting anywhere. So the first step is overcoming the fear of me doing something new and something that I'm not familiar with, something that will put me out of my comfort zone in a way that it's gonna give me a different experience in life, where I'm able to expand my consciousness and my mind and go outside the box, because fear is the mind killer. And if I live in fear, that means I am killing my mind, and in a way I'm killing everything else that is ruled by my mind. So I believe that just like a pyramid, we are structured to, there's layers of functions within our body, right? Obviously our mind and our psyche is at the center. It's at the control tower of ourselves. And then later, as I go down the pyramid, I notice all the different parts of what makes me me in this physical sense, like all my organs and all my glands and all these parts of my body that the more down the ladder, the more down the pyramid I go, the more I'm realizing that there's so many different things like organs, but I could break that down into blood vessels and veins and all these nerve endings, all these capillaries, all these micro particles and micro cells that make the whole structure of my body. And I realize that there's a layer of functions at each stage, right? Each stage is different. There's, just like the cosmic laws that God designed, there's the law of mind, the law of polarity, the law of correspondence, the law of cause and effect, which is karma. And once I realized that one law can supersede another law, obviously all these laws are structured, like the law of gravity could be, in a sense, stronger than the law of cause and effect, right? Because a cause and effect is more something that you can see physically, but the law of gravity is something that you can't see, but it's more like something that you feel. So in a way, the law of gravity is superseding the law of cause and effect, but in a way they follow an order, and the law of mind is at the very top. So understanding that concept, I understand that my mind is at the command center of the rest of my life. I create my life, I create my struggling, I create my suffering. I could also create the heaven on earth, right, that I seek. I could also create the healthy body that I seek. I just have to acknowledge that if I had a sick function, if I'm having a sick system, like my whole body is sick, I must acknowledge that there's a saying that the fish rots from the head. And that means that if my command center is malfunctioning, if I'm giving the wrong orders, or if I'm being the tyrant king, I'll always taking advantage of the body's capability to do work, almost like if I'm seeing my body as a workhorse and my mind is just telling the workhorse to produce, to keep working, to be productive, right? And I'm not really listening to the needs of the horse, saying, okay, I need a little bit of break, I'm tired, I need a little emotional support, I need some training in order to do this task more efficiently. I am only abusing the horse inside of me, and the relationship there is being severed. Basically, the horse begins to resent the master, and the horse still does the work, but the horse ends up being it's beat. There's no life force. The horse will still do the job, but in a way it's not going to be happy. The relationship there is not going to be good. If the owner, if my command center, if my king, if my boss really is only seeking to reap the benefits of the workers, of everybody that is a part of the whole ecosystem, if the king is only collecting tax but not really providing for its people, the people are gonna talk. Everybody is gonna be talking about the king. People are not gonna be happy. The king will be rich and wealthy, but the rest of the population will be suffering. And that's when I have to acknowledge, okay, maybe the first step is actually acknowledge the ruler, the boss, the king inside. And I want to question myself, am I the righteous king that everybody is happy to be working for? Am I the righteous king that's gonna step into battle leading everybody, instead of him sitting in his tower sending a bunch of people to their death, to their doom, right? Am I going to be the righteous king that's going to be there for everybody, right? That's going to make the right decisions, that's actually going to listen to his counsel, and for him to actually make decisions based off of what's best for everybody. And sometimes the best decision as a king, if the king realizes that the king is being tyrannical and abusive and manipulating and running a dictatorship, then if I need to change the king with the righteous king, I must allow the old king to step down. And the process of that could be very painful as well, because you are essentially ripping part of yourself that has been operating your life for such a long time. You have had this tyrant of a king operating your whole kingdom for such a long time that the process of you replacing the king with the righteous king is obviously a big shift in energy. And the next step is, once I realize that there's going to be some changes, right? When a new CEO comes in a company, they announce to the workers, right? They announce, okay, there's going to be some new changes implemented. We know that it's going to take some time for everybody to adapt to the change. We also want to inform and educate everybody as much as we can about this change that's going to be taking place. And if you essentially do not adapt to the change, you're not really going to feel at ease in this workplace. And it's not that we're going to let you go, but it's more like we're trying to create of something of self-sufficiency, something that everybody is happy, right? And obviously if you don't adapt to the change, you're not going to be happy. And if you're unhappy, you're most likely not feel 100% working in this environment, and you most likely will quit on your own. And the same way, the body, we're going to have to coach our body. If we're making such a big change within ourselves, saying, okay, we're going to undergo a new process of healing, right? And maybe I'm going to take on a modality like breath work. And I tell myself I'm going to be doing breath work for 30 days every day, and I'm going to put myself through this process that is very much new for me. It is very much a scary and nervous place to be. It's a new realm to explore. It's a new possibility, which makes me feel uneasy about it. But I am coaching myself through the process and telling myself that I'm going to stick with it. I am going to stick through the process of doing something that's challenging, something that is new, something that is putting me out of my comfort zone. And that's how I can use breath work as a tool to expand my consciousness, right? To dig deeper within myself, to overcome my monkey mind that is always telling me, no, you need this. Or maybe my previous behavior, my inner child screaming at me, telling me, no, don't do this because this doesn't feel good. We're so used to living life this way that now that you're implementing this new concept, it's making us feel very uncomfortable. And in a way, if I'm not coaching the masses within myself, if I'm not being patient with me implementing this change, and if I expect the change to happen overnight, that means I have to fire everybody. I have to literally remove all the workers, hire up a new workforce, and change the boss. But I'm realizing that it wasn't really the fault of the workers, of the little cells in my body, right? My little organs. It's not my liver's fault that I'm unhealthy, right? It's not my lungs' fault that I'm unhealthy. It is more like what I'm feeding the system. That is what kind of thoughts am I feeding it, right? What kind of food and what kind of environment I'm feeding the system. And that is the main cause. So once I address those 3 steps, my ruler inside, my mind that is operating, my CEO, my king, I have to evaluate that. Then I have to evaluate the environment. Am I in an environment that promotes change, right? Am I in a stressful environment? Am I in an environment that is feeding me good thoughts, right? Am I in an environment that is feeding me clean foods, and do I have access to clean water, right? So those are the first steps that I need to address. And knowingly that I'm making the change, I could tackle something hard. Maybe I'll do a fast for a certain amount of time where I tell myself, well, I've had way too much cigarettes over the years, right? I've smoked cigarettes for 20, 30 years, and I'm making the decision to fast from smoking for 30 days. And usually it's a good amount of time to tackle something like a challenge. Do a 30-day challenge, or maybe even a 90-day. I feel like a 90-day challenge is even better. Even something like doing a carnivore diet, you're completely simplifying your lifestyle to only consuming one thing or a couple things that are all in the same realm of carnivore food. And I'm not saying that a carnivore diet is the cure for all, but I'm saying that that is a tool for you to eliminate and fast from maybe all the other things that have been making you sick this whole time. And when you undergo such a process of fasting and eliminating, you are simplifying your life to the point of of you feeling bored. You feeling bored with the foods that you eat, with the way you feel, with the amount of time that maybe you save from thinking about what you're gonna eat, because now your choice is narrowed down to this one thing or these couple of things that you can prepare this every day, and essentially you do the same thing every day, which becomes very boring to the point of allowing you to undergo a spiritual process, sitting through that boredom that you feel. And I feel like a lot of times it's I always thinking about healing always brings me back to the feeling of boredom. And once I'm able to pass and punch through the feeling of boredom, I actually allow myself to rise and be reborn on the other side. But if I constantly distract myself when I feel bored, and I always go back to smoking that cigarette, I always go back to eating food and just emotionally, I'm not challenging my emotions. I'm not asking what I'm feeling. Am I even feeling hungry, or is that something that I am distracting myself because of the feeling of boredom that I don't want to sit with? So every time that I address the healing process and I simplify things to the point of, okay, I need to narrow things down and bring myself from a level of functioning where I could obviously add things on later on, but going through an elimination process allows my body to be away from the substances or people or places that I'm so familiar with, that now when I reintroduce those substances or places or people, I could actually get a feedback from the body telling me how it feels. Is that good for me, right? Is that environment good for me? Once I remove myself from an environment and then I put myself back into it, do I feel better when I'm away from that environment, or do I feel better being stuck in the toxic partnership, right, that made me sick in the first place? That is why, I mean, some people are so stuck in their environment because they have bills, right? They have apartment that they have to pay for. They have a spouse that they have to please. They have kids that they have to feed, so they can't really allow themselves an extensive amount of time off in order to seek those answers, right? To make those changes, to actually spend long enough time for them to realize the changes that they need to make in order to make themselves more evolved, or whether it's rushing through the process. You can't really rush, but you really need time to self-reflect, and that is sometimes is challenging when we are burdened ourselves with so many responsibilities, right? So that is why I am so lucky to be able to unplug from my daily duties, and my duties as a son, my duties as a brother, my duties as a partner. I am able to unplug and say, okay, well, actually spending time on my own well-being is something that I'm looking forward to. I'm also understanding that is going to be a challenging process, challenging time in my life, and also I have to coach myself through the process. And I haven't met anybody who has really led me through this journey. I've mostly self intuitively have taken on this path, and I've realized that that is the most precious thing that I could have done for myself, and it was the scariest, most unknown, and most uncomfortable thing that I've done in my life, because I've realized that seeking the answers out of myself only give me like temporary relief to the way I feel. Asking somebody what to do to improve my cognitive function, and they say, "Oh, just do ice bath, just do this, just do that." Everybody else always has the answer, and people always have these suggestions, and to some extent, all those things are helpful. But all those things are tools for us to really tap into our inner guide, our inner righteous king, right? That makes everybody in your ecosystem happy, and everybody is actually proud to give up their life for the king. So that is really the first step, is overcoming that fear, spending time alone and asking those deeper questions that sometimes require you sitting in silence for a long time before the answers reveal themselves to you. And sometimes the answers come in weird ways, like maybe an animal will speak to you, maybe you're gonna have a dream that reveals something, maybe somebody in your environment, immediate environment, presents themselves as them bringing you the wisdom that you needed at that particular time in order for you to realize and be able to process something maybe from your past that you haven't processed. And another healing aspect of another part of the healing aspect is, if I compare myself to an old computer, right? Obviously, if I don't have the operating capacity to process the information that I am consuming, if I have an old if I have an old system, I am unable to process all the information that I'm putting through, right? I'm not being able to process what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, what I'm tasting, what I'm consuming, if my operating system is sluggish, right? If it's old. And I could only compare it to a computer because it makes a really good analogy, as far as a computer can be upgraded so it can process more information at a faster speed, right? But you can't really upgrade a computer from the 90s to be able to process information in today's space, in 2024, right? You're gonna have to completely change everything. Every part of that computer needs to be brand new, right? I cannot put a new microchip memory card into an old computer from the 90s and expect that to work. It's just not compatible. But I also have to acknowledge that God created this intelligent being that has all these faculties, these hands, these internal organs that function in a way that they're able to regenerate, and they're able to restructure themselves. They're able to go through the process of death and rebirth and renewal, as long as I allow my mind to be open. And going back to Carl Jung, he's saying that all sickness starts from our narrow perspective and our fear-based thinking. We put ourselves in a box where we're only having a one-minded experience, where we don't allow ourselves to think differently, to look at anybody else's experience in life and take take wisdom in everybody else's experience. I've learned to realize that I could gain as much insight from speaking to a homeless individual compared to speaking to somebody who is fully abundant and has everything in life. Like I could get as much value from an ant if I'm able to really tune to the frequency of communication to be able to receive the information from an animal or a little insect, right? Because when I think about ants and the ecosystem that they live in, I understand that they communicate without using words, right? Their way of communication is very different. Like maybe it's a frequency, maybe it's a vibration, maybe it's some sort of energetic pulse that they emit in order for them to communicate with other ants, right? And that's the other thing that I need to acknowledge in this process of healing, is that I am able to communicate to all the cells, everything that makes me me, in a bunch of different ways. Sometimes I'm able to align my voice to my higher self and to my heart, to my body. And once I speak what I'm feeling into existence, that is when my body acknowledges the words that come through. And that is me being able to feel connected to what I'm saying. And another way I could communicate with my body or my mind or my spiritual higher self is through waves and vibration and energy. So I have to acknowledge that it's not only a linear path of communication, but I could implement all these other types of communication that are being presented to me. Like birds sing, right? They make all these sounds. I could potentially tap into that way of communication by me singing or by me dancing. I see a lot of animals out in the wild, especially birds. They have all these dances that they do, almost like a performance before they, whatever, it's as an act of a mating call, as an act of being playful, whatever that is. They are having different ways of communication. And once I realize the different ways of communication, I could implement those ways in order to seek to understand everything that makes me me, right? I need to seek to understand my body, right? Almost like I'm working with a horse. I need to seek to understand what the horse wants and what the horse needs in order for me to earn the trust from the horse. And once I earn the trust from a horse, then I could potentially get up on it. The horse will be able to take me places, and we're gonna have such a loving relationship that I could achieve a lot more having that relationship with the horse. And both of us, it's actually healing for both of us. It's healing for my psyche and it's healing for my body. So me earning the trust from my body is the first step where I'm learning how to seek to understand what my body needs, right? I'm asking myself that question. What do you need? What do you need today? Do you need water? Do you need food? Do you feel unsafe today? Do you feel insecure about this? Do you feel a sense of threat from this individual? Do you feel like you're hungry? Do you feel like you're gonna die? What is it? So I'm asking these questions to the body, and once I'm open to receiving the feedback, I am really in a place of receiving information and feedback from my body. So when I fast from something, for example, and then I reintroduce it back into my regimen, I have those feedback information that I get from my body. So, and then then I can make the conclusion and the decision as if I need that substance in my life, or if I could just if I am better off without it. So if I am smoking, and if I, let's say I'm craving it, I'm addicted to it, right? And I tell myself that I'm gonna be without it for a bit, and then I reintroduce it, I have to acknowledge, am I really feeling the effects of it? Am I going into my animalistic mind where I fully lose myself when I reintroduce the substance back? Am I, yeah, almost like do I become this animal that cannot control that I cannot control my desires, and I end up abusing that substance and relapse even more? Almost like if I put fruit away from my diet for 90 days and I reintroduce fruit back into my diet, do my receptors just blast, and does a feeling inside me take over where I have no control of how much fruit I eat? And that's happened before when I fast from something for a long time, like whether it's food or diet. I have noticed that the first time I reintroduce that substance back in, I am being fully taken over by this urge to consume more of it. It's like oh shit, I missed out on all these meals that I didn't have, or all these packs of cigarettes that I didn't smoke. So now I feel the need to smoke 5 packs to catch up for the amount of time that I wasted not smoking. That is why relapses are so much more dangerous if they're not being addressed, if they're not being if maybe you don't have the support system, right? If you're not in the right environment, not in the right mindset, it is very difficult to go cold turkey from you being abusive at alcohol for 50 years, and psychologically that'll really wreck you to the point of you might even get sicker if you dismiss and quit something for so long. You might replace the habit with something even worse. Maybe you begin to overeat now, and then you get diabetes, which is what happened to my grandpa, right? He used to be smoking a lot of packs of cigarettes throughout the day, but then once he quit, he began to replace that with food or whatever. He ended up gaining weight and diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and later on in life, his feet, I mean, he a lot of suffering. His feet were swelling up. He was going to hospitals, having insulin shots and all that, and there was not enough knowledge back in the day to understand that your immediate environment is causing that. What you eat and your environment and not being active or being more sedentary now is what's causing this whole thing, right? You're creating your sickness. The cause is the effect, right? When you put that into perspective, you understand that you are causing your suffering, right? And I started questioning free will, and when I am so puzzled, or if I'm so ruled by a substance, does that mean I have a free will today? Let's say I reintroduce that substance back into my life and I smoke a cigarette again. Do I have the choice now to just smoke one cigarette and be like, whoa, I actually feel this a lot better. I'm a lot more sensitive to smoking now, where I'm getting a different experience from just this one cigarette, and I'm fully present with it, where, wow, I got so much different experience now that maybe I don't need to smoke, or maybe the feeling is so good that I just want to end up doing that constantly and more, and feel like I gotta gotta make up for lost time smoking this. And if I go back into my sick state, then I have to make the change again. And oftentimes it's the change has been done once, you end up relapsing, and then you try to do it again, you end up relapsing, and oftentimes it might take 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7, 10 times you going back and forth before you finally realize that maybe the substance is not really good for you. Maybe the substance is good if you're able to moderate it, if you're able to put that cigarette in your mouth and not give it the power to light it up. And that's really, I feel like, the key as far as me overcoming all these addictions and all these cravings was there's no running away from drugs, right? There's no running away from beer, or no running away from alcohol, no running away from candy or sweets or sugar or media or anything. It's always going to be out there. It's always going to be out there. It's always going to be accessible to you. You can run away from it and remove yourself completely from all of this and have some success. But I've learned to realize that sooner or later, those things will be around you. People will present themselves around you smoking a cigarette, and it's almost like God is testing you now. It is challenging you to actually use your willpower to say no. When somebody is smoking a cigarette next to you and you have been a smoker your whole life, maybe your body is like, well, shit, I want to smoke too. But then your willpower gives you the ability to have the free will and to say no that day, that particular day. And I've realized that we have to be really gentle with ourselves and really not really terrorize and put guilty conscience on ourselves if we do smoke, or if we fall down the drain, right? Or if you break the cycle of you being sober for however many days, right? Because I have to allow myself the possibility that I will smoke again one day. One day, when I get old, I might pick up a cigarette, or I might pick up a bad habit again. But today, in my current state of mind, do I have the power to say no? Do I have the capacity to be able to exercise my free will and to say no? And that practice begins. It's challenging in the beginning. People will give you all these energies, especially if they offer you food. A lot of times that'll make you feel uncomfortable for you denying whatever they're giving it to you, and that's mostly because people feel rejected if you deny some, or if you say no to them, right? They feel a sense of rejection. But that is something that they're gonna have to overcome on their own. It is your decision, and you have to understand that you are in the center of your existence. You are the center of the mandala, that you are creating your experience, you are creating your sickness, you are creating your problems, you are creating your struggles. The same way, by you exercising your free will and understanding that today I am able to say no. Tomorrow I might say yes to prostitutes, I might say yes to beers, I might say yes to cigarettes, but today I have the power to say no. And I realized that I realized that the tyrant within me was ruling me for a long time, because I would be so strict on the things that I'm undertaking. Like, I'm challenging myself with 3 months eating only meat. I'm challenging myself with 7 days of only drinking water. I'm challenging myself with 5 days putting myself in a dark room by myself, right? So I I am undergoing these processes where it almost feels like I'm bullying myself into it. And I also have to understand the archetypal energy of a bully. Sometimes it's good to bully myself in order to snap out and do what I want to do, what I need to do. Sometimes I have to bully myself into it. But if I bully myself long term, perpetually, if I bully myself, then that's obviously gonna take some tolls on the body later on. If I'm around bullies my whole life, then obviously I'm gonna begin to resent them. But if I am being bullied into something that actually is beneficial for me, I could actually look back and almost like thank the bully for actually putting me in the situation where that actually became a lesson for me, or it became something of a, I gained some sort of wisdom from that experience. And I feel like that's always the case. But if I operate my system bullying myself, continually doing these challenges and putting myself through these processes and not really being easy on myself, not really being too critical of myself, or being too judgmental of myself and my actions, and being too critical when I do fall off the wagon, right? Or if I do miss a day, or if I do relapse with a substance, I have to allow myself to give myself unconditional love throughout my process. This is something that I want to emphasize in this healing process. Is once you undergo the process, you have to acknowledge that at times you might relapse, at times you might make the wrong moves, at times you might struggle with something, and you have to allow yourself to be feeding yourself the unconditional love. Like, okay, it's okay, you fell back, but let's pick yourself back up. Let's try again. Let's say you failed for the 7th time. You just get up another time. You try another time. Try again. And that is, I feel like that is the process that you just have to keep on trying until you have the breakthrough. You cannot stop on trying or pursuing healing and give up on it, because a lot of people give up on it. It's so painful, so hard. You literally have to chip off the piece of the marble that you need to shape into a better version of yourself. You have to shed off that. You have to strip and peel that skin off. You have to strip off the exoskeleton, right? It's essentially you're gonna have to go through a death process of your old self and burn through the flames into something new, right? And that process is very painful, and sometimes you have to do that multiple times. Usually it's not a one cycle of death and rebirth. I feel like we continuously, infinitely keep doing that. That is, healing is such an infinite process that it starts with you, but then it is on, you're healing on all these different levels. Like the Kabbalah speaks about 10 different, I mean, it's probably more, but there's 10 different fields of layers that are all on different level of the psyche. So there's a mental body, right? We have all these bodies. We have a physical body, we have this mental body, we have this nervous system, which is a whole other system. We have all these systems inside our body: our organ system, our elimination system, our blood system, our nervous system, our lymphatic system. You have all these different systems that only reminds me that healing is not a linear process. It is a multi-dimensionally, at least in 3 directions. So there's many more directions and realms to explore the healing aspect. But to simplify, let's just say that it's at least 3 directions that I have to attack this from. There's a mental body, that is my mind, my thoughts, my way of thinking. it is my physical body, my immediate feedback, my feel. How does the body feel? How are my reflexes? How is my intuition? And also my unconscious part of myself, right? What are the stuff? What are the things that I'm not really aware of that maybe are causing my dysfunction, right? Because a lot of times we are so unaware of what is actually holding us back. And I have to realize that there's a spiritual aspect to my existence too, my masculine and feminine side of my brain, right? I have two hemispheres. So if I'm not able to have that communication between both hemispheres, I am missing some information down the line where it's causing a misfire, right? I'm not making the connections inside my brain, inside my receptors, and I'm not being able to communicate that to the cell of my body. Like healing begins from the inside. So again, I want to reiterate, healing begins from the inside, from the smallest mini organism and cell that is part of yourself. That cell is in the core epicenter of your existence. And once I learned to communicate to my pinky, I also acknowledge that the pinky has an intelligence, and sometimes I allow my reflexes to guide me through this journey of life. Sometimes I can make the right decision up in my head as far as being being logical and making sense out of things, but sometimes I have to allow myself to be guided by my reflexes, right? By my impulses, or by my intuition, right? Intuition. And that's when I learned to listen and seek to understand what are my emotions, what do they mean, right? What are my cravings, what do my cravings mean? Do I need it, or is it something that I want? Is it something that's gonna kill me if I don't do it? Is it something that I'm just throwing a tantrum inside my mind, almost acting like a child inside of my mind, rebelling against the rules, rebelling against the system, right? If someone doesn't like the system, they rebel against the system. So in order for me to not rebel and live at peace, at ease with myself, I must acknowledge that I am all parts of the system. I am the boss, I am the king, I am also the worker, I am also the slave, I am also the prophet, I am also the healer, I am also the police officer, I am also the intellectual wise man, I am also the lover. I am all these different characters that if I am not able to communicate and have clear understanding and be able to sit all those characters at a round table inside my psyche and have a beautiful discussion as far as, okay, how are we going to operate this system, right? How are we going to create our reality, right? How are we going to attract the people in our life that are really going to be fulfilling, right? How am I going to find purpose in my actions, right? How am I going to feel useful? What can I use my energy towards, right? So have all these discussions inside my head and seeking to understand each and every one of these characters within ourselves. That is when we could really activate the inner healer within ourselves, and also allow ourselves the time. The inner healer is going to say, okay, well, we're going to do this, but that requires you to just sit still and take your time and not distract yourself, but really feel everything. And until you're able to process everything in your perception that you haven't been processing up until now, those moments will keep coming back, right? Those unprocessed emotions that you have experienced in the past, like a childhood trauma, or I mean, whatever else you've experienced in your past, if you're not able to process whatever information or whatever experience you had, that that energy will keep coming back to you until you're able to process it fully. And sometimes allowing yourself enough time to sit through your past, addressing your past, and bringing those moments in the present, understanding that nothing can harm you now in this present moment, but you're only bringing a memory of the past into your present, and understanding how to really process what happened, what are the lessons that came out of it, what is the feeling that came out of it, because maybe during the time of you experiencing that hardship, you did not really allow yourself to really feel. You wanted to run away, and you did not want to be there sitting in your pain. That pain will persist until you're fully able to feel it. Once you feel that pain, that is when you can really let go. You can process what it feels like. You can understand that the feeling is not something that is permanent inside. You understand that your physical body can only experience so much, but there's more to this whole physical experience, right? There's more to it. And once you realize that we all come from the same place and go to the same place, meaning that somebody created us and gave us a sense of energy and light that is within us, once you understand that eventually you go back to the whole essence of creation, you have to understand that whatever you felt on this physical level will soon not exist, because you are going to merge back with the one energy that gave you life, that created you, whatever that is. Maybe you created yourself. And people say it's not really, people have two lives until they wake up they have two lives until they realize in their second life that they only have one life. So people have a past life where they see themselves as somebody who was functioning in a way that was not really, the system was not really on. And then once you wake up to realizing that you only have one life, you begin to see that now every moment is precious, right? You want to be, time goes by so fast. And sometimes when I sit in the presence of nature, in the presence of myself, I realize that the days go by so quickly. And I realize, man, time is really something that we've attached so much to. Like, we want to heal right away, right? We want this instant pill, this instant help, seeking it from the outside, somebody giving us a piece of advice that's going to instantly heal us. But I also have to allow myself the time to heal. And if I've been misusing the system and abusing the system for 30, 40, 50 years, then healing will take time. And understanding that once I'm undergoing that process, I could also detach from the concept of time and feel almost like the end result of me being actually fully healed. I'm asking myself, what would it feel if I was fully healed today, if I were fully capable, if I were thinking clearly, if I had more energy, if I was functioning in a healthy way, right? If my thoughts were healthy, if I was just righteously operating my life, what would that feel like? And then understanding that time is the only thing that I have to learn to disrupt, that essence of time and space. And once I meditate on the state of emptiness and on the state of curiosity, of what would it feel like to be healthy? What would it feel like to be vibrant? What would it feel like to be inspirational? What would it feel like to be living a life worth living, right? And once I'm opening myself to the curiosity and always feeding myself that infinite love, then all these tools like breath work and meditation and fasting and all these modalities are only a way for me to use them as a tool to access different levels of my psyche, like get to my emotional pain, right? Get to my spiritual growth, right? Get to my physical suffering, right? When I fast, I go through all these experiences. Like, man, my body feels like it's gonna die. My psyche, my faith gets challenged. All my methods gets challenged. And then when I'm being so strict with myself, sometimes I gotta allow myself to have a beer and just relax, right? Just abandon all rules and just kind of enjoy life, and not be so strict and not be so disciplined and so tyrannical with my behavior, right? Once I put the righteous king in place, the king knows how to communicate to everybody on the table. And the king knows when he doesn't know the answer, he can seek it from his oracle or his guards or somebody else that's sitting at the table. And the decision, again, comes from you being able to make the decision not in the way that you're attached to always being right, but you are now making the decision from a multi-dimensional perspective, and you have all these there are at least three systems, so mind, body, spirit. If you only think about these three things, then you have to address the problem three-dimensionally at least. And once I'm able to learn to seek, to understand, learn to listen to the signs, learn to trust in myself and my methods, I'm almost like paving the road, walking this road that is not, I don't follow any steps, I don't follow any parameters. I'm pretty much intuitively healing myself by just learning to listen and observe and adapting to the signs. Fear is the one thing that is oftentimes, Carl Jung describes it, fear will keep you in a box. Fear will keep you in illness, because when you're afraid, you're not essentially trying anything new. You're stuck in your own ways. You have your own beliefs that you're so attached to that you're not able to let go. And fear is the one thing that confines you, that puts you in this box where your consciousness is locked into that box, where it's not able to go and connect to the infinite source of consciousness that is your unconscious. You're functioning out of your conscious mind, where you're doing things, but you have no access to your subconscious. And many times your subconscious is actually running most of your operations day to day, are ran by your subconscious. You don't constantly think about breathing or processing your food or even walking, right? All these processes are done subconsciously by the body, where the intelligence in it is doing the operations on the background, right? And until you're able to understand your subconscious, some of these background programs that you've been operating for years, you're not really shedding light onto it, and the background program keeps operating your life. And that is why Carl Jung explains it, when we are able to understand our unconscious and shed light into our behavior and our patterns and our psyche, that is when we can make the change. That is when we can address the situation. That is when we can choose. That is when, if we seek to understand the unconscious. And once we're able to tap into that infinite amount of energy that is operating our life, we realize that the unconscious is almost like the sea that we are a drop from. And once we understand that we can merge with the whole sea, we are not as polluted as we would be in a small, imagine a small amount of water being really polluted and really sick, right? The whole environment is sick. If I keep the water confined into a small space and put a fish in it, right? The fish will most likely die. Will most likely the environment will be too toxic for the fish to be able to thrive in it because it's so toxic, right? But if I put this water, the amount of water, and dump it into the big ocean and still put the fish in there, now the whole environment will be more diluted, right? The poison that had been concentrated in the small environment is now more polluted because you have expanded your consciousness enough to understand that you could dilute your thoughts as well. Maybe your thoughts have been so concentrated, as far as they're so negative and so toxic, that now that you put these thoughts into this big open realm of the unconscious, like you're dumping them in this fresh stream of water of the unconscious, now you're able to dilute the poison and the toxicity that has been accumulating inside of you, and now you're able to heal. So in a way, if your mind is expanding, then the body is only a byproduct of your expansion of your consciousness, and that is when healing happens. That is when you're able to, that is when you're able to heal. And there's no magic pill. There's no anything outside of yourself. All the answers are coming from within. Change comes from within, right? Buddha, there's a lot of Buddhist aspects. There's a lot of information that has been passing on from generations to generations, and I feel like with me exploring these realms and me blapping so much about this topic is for me to just reintroduce old concepts that have been around since the beginning of time. Old concepts like fasting, old concepts as discipline, samurai mentality, doing the righteous thing, thinking Stoic philosophy. All those things have been transcending time for this whole existence. And once I tap into the whole mentality of we're all in this together. My problems are not necessarily just mine, and your problems are not necessarily just yours. Your problems are my problems, and my problems are your problems, right? If I am malfunctioning, that means the rest of you are malfunctioning. If there's somebody homeless out in our society, if that is an issue, I am not separate from that issue, right? How do we tackle all these problems together? How do we understand to have this common vision of all of us being healthy, right? All of us being vibrant. How do I don't want sick clients for me to be able to get rich off of them, right? I don't really, my goal isn't really that. If I'm thinking from a higher perspective, I would want everybody to be as equally feeling as I am feeling, right? Everybody to be functioning at their full capacity, right? Nobody is in need of anything from anybody, and everybody has the essence of unconditional love from within, right? And that's really the challenge. That's really the challenge, because we've been conditioned by society to always seek more for ourselves, and as long as somebody else is struggling, we're comparing ourselves to them, and actually almost feel better because we're seeing somebody else having it worse than we are, right? If we see somebody having it worse than we are, we completely put that separation between the way I feel and the way they feel, or the situation that they're in, and I completely think that I am different, and I feel good for myself because I am not as low as they are, right? I'm not seeking to understand how they feel, what they're going through, right? I'm thinking of myself as separate. Oh, it's not my problem, you know? And then yeah, there's no, collectively there's no healing. I address now whatever is my vicinity is in a way my creation, is in a way my responsibility. It's almost like if I attract something in my life that is in pain, or it's suffering, or is in some sort of going through some sort of hardship, that immediately becomes my pain as well. It becomes my problem as well. And now I understand the law of mind, where it allows me to not really succumb to the feeling and struggle that somebody else is going through, but it's giving me the chance to understand the process and what they're going through, and in a way I'm able to help the situation, even if that's not my intention, because our intention is always to be of help, right, to somebody. But I have to also detach from the fact that I'm able to help everybody, right? I can only have the experience that I can have for myself, and by bringing myself to my core essence of myself, I'm able to vibrate at a higher frequency, where my frequency alone becomes the healing for everybody else. It's my energetic output that becomes what people feel, and what maybe challenges people. Maybe my way of my vibration exposes flaws, or exposes nukes and crannies in someone else, where just my energy and frequency alone is the healer, right? Once I've tapped into the inner healer of myself, and I operate myself at a higher frequency, and I'm able to connect my words to my intentions, and not have ill thoughts, and not to be using people for their sickness. That is when I'm able to heal, really heal to the level that I can activate the healer inside someone else, and then they become a healer for me at that sense. It's a lot of times encounters with other people are for the reason that it's not necessarily that someone needs a healing and the other person is the healer. It's more like we are both needing this experience for the benefit of all, right? We're all being challenged with this situation, or this problem, or whatever is going through between two people. Let's say a client shows up sick to a patient shows up sick to a professional who considers himself healthy, right? And if the doctor actually looks at themselves as them separate from the patient, and they only diagnose, or they only see and diagnose the symptoms, and they prescribe something based off of a list of things that are prescribed to those symptoms, then that is very much viewing that from a way of separation. I am healthy. I'm only prescribing something that I see. Maybe you need something topical, or maybe a band to address the symptom. But in order for me to go to the root cause of things, I need to put myself in the experience and actually seek to understand what my client is going through. Ask the deep questions. Tackle the problem multidimensionally, not just looking at the symptoms, but looking at their subconscious life. Maybe visit their dreams if they're having dreams. All these aspects of their psyche, I need to involve myself enough with the client to where I become part of the problem. And being able to distinguish what is mine, what is theirs, what is all of ours, we find the solution, and each client is then addressed in a different way. It's not one way fits all. We're all very much different. We all come and go to the same place, but we are all a manifestation of God, and we all have this innate intelligence within ourselves, that we all have these different experiences in life, and we all have undergo these different processes. And the more I'm able to understand and seek and really break down someone else's process, allows me to have a new experience for myself, where that experience becomes healing for my soul, for the collective soul. And me seeing the immediate healing that is happening to the person, maybe they immediately feel better or relieved in a way, that also gives me a sense of purpose, a sense of acknowledgement from the whole system that okay, we are collectively healing. I am doing this not only to heal myself, but by healing myself to heal you, so you can heal me. it's a cycle, right? I'm healing you so you can heal me. And maybe something brought us together for us to have this unique experience where we could heal from our energy, from our energetic fields that become intertwined, right? And that is, healing is multidimensional. Healing is never a linear process. It needs to be addressed from all these different levels. Time is something that, if we're seeking immediate gratification, if we expect to get healthy after a week of fasting compared to are struggling for years with addiction, and we expect to get healthy in just 1 week, that is just not how things work. Healing is something that is continually happening on all levels, and it's going to be infinitely happening. You're never really arrived at a place. Obviously, you go to a higher place where you feel better. But it's never really a final destination where you say, okay, now I could give up, and I could just coast on life, right? We're always in the process of expanding, evolving ourselves, and it's a hard, every time you get to a level in a video game, you get challenged on another way. Every time you're equipped now to handle more, to handle bigger challenges, God presents you with those bigger challenges, and God will only give you enough struggle that you're capable of. So whatever is happening in your life, remember that God is always giving you enough. God is always giving you whatever you need in the moment, and you can endure all of that stuff. You can endure all those struggles that you go through. Maybe it's health issues. God is always making it so you could overcome that. God will never give you more than what you can undertake. And with that, it's I know it was a long talk. It's it's been an hour and a half almost of me blapping around. Hopefully this information is useful. I know that I just want to reiterate a few things about healing itself. It's never a linear process, always going from the tree of life, always connecting to the core essence of yourself. If the body is a mandala, is the tree of life, then every little piece of yourself could be the center of your consciousness, and you have to view yourself from all different aspects from what makes you you. You have to visit your physical self, your mental self, your emotional self, your energetic self, your frequency self, all these different aspects of what makes you you. You have to see yourself from those different places and understand those different perspectives. Fear is the first thing that you must overcome in order to make a change, to do something new, to step out of a comfort zone, to tackle a challenge. Usually exercises like breath work, ice baths, doing a diet, doing a retreat, maybe a fasting, whatever the tool that you use, it's you pick how you're gonna tackle your healing process. But remember that all those things are only tools to uncover and to reveal the core essence of yourself. Addictions are most likely body addictions. They're not really, your mind is not really, you are a combination of all, but you're not any of it. By saying this, is you are a combination of your mind, body, brain, spirit, all this stuff, and at the same time you are none of those things. Because once your soul passes from this physical body and lets go and actually dies, the final moment of life, you actually become something that is not this body, right? Not, you become something energetically or whatever mind. You become consciousness, all living mind, all infinite mind. And once you understand that you're not your emotions, you're not your desires, you're not your thoughts, then you begin to more easily are able to navigate through these realms. You got to fire the CEO that's been operating your life up until that point. If you have been feeling sick, you must replace the CEO and really coach the rest of the company how you're going to be implementing new changes, how it's going to take time implementing those changes. It's going to take time to train all the workforce to be doing things differently, especially if there's one way of them doing things up until now. And in Japan, it's a cool Japanese concept where if a company is failing, they don't really let go of the workforce, because the workforce is only following orders from up top. The CEO is the first one that steps down and the first one that becomes demoted and doesn't pay himself, in order for them to see if bringing somebody new at the head of the operations could potentially be the thing that solves the issues that are going. Your desire to heal must be stronger than your desire to consume. That's really crucial to understand, because our desires are something of our animal nature, right? If I'm operating out of my third lower centers, right? If I'm always scared about my place, my root chakra, if I'm always craving sex, if I'm addicted to sex and porn and just turning to an animal, when it comes down to sex and using sexual energy, if I am driven by my desires like food and consuming energy and information, I am very much becoming a parasitic. I become a parasite that is leeching off of, I'm always seeking to gain something from somebody else, right? I have this parasitic nature where if I'm thinking this way in my command center, then that is obviously going to attract parasitic entities within my system. And that is why it's such a big pandemic now about everything as far as people talking about parasites, is because our thoughts and the way that the system is operating is very parasitic now. And people develop these products to be able to sell to these people, and yeah, they educate people on parasites and everything, but they're designing a product in order to keep people hooked on their product infinitely. So essentially Is that a way of thinking like a parasite as well? I'm going to develop this product, and people are going to be hooked and pretty much living off of my product, buying a lifetime supply off of my product because my product is so good and it's helping so many people. But at the same time, I am making money out of it. Pretty much, if I am telling people that they have parasites, and I'm putting that in their consciousness, I am making them believe that they need my herbs in order to heal. And see how deep I could go with that. It's like I manipulate the situation where I'm making these people hooked on my product because I made them believe that they have these parasites and these entities inside of themselves, that are not good for them, right? That are parasitic. But once you realize what a parasite is and really study what a parasite is, it is something that leeches off of something else, off a system, and not give anything in as far as like productive sense, right? A parasite is something that will sit on the couch and eat all your food and just be a waste of space. It's almost like a zombie cell that lives inside of you. And that zombie cell, like just like a cancer cell, it only feeds on whatever that feeds on, right? That zombie cell is only gonna feed on what I mean, people say that zombie cells feed on sugar, right? Parasites, candida, all this stuff, they feed on sugars, and essentially they just sit and they create a nasty space in your home. It's like the couch has become like polluted with chips and crumbs, and it's sticky from candy, and there's pizza crusts under the couch, and it's just not a environment that you come home from work every day and you see that thing that is leaching off of your hard work. It's eating your food, and it's just sitting on the couch, not being productive, not really being put to work, right? And that is what a parasitic cell is. So how do you communicate enough with those cells that are inside your body that would essentially be in a more cooperative mind now, where they decide to straighten their own shit, like clean up the mess that they are in, and a lot of times it needs a strict challenge, like doing a carnivore challenge for 90 days where you strip yourself off of sugars, right? And that is the way that you discipline that cell to obey and tell you, that, hey, listen, we're not doing this anymore. If you're going to operate, and actually if you're going to get along, then you have to clean up your shit, and you're gonna respect the fact that I'm providing for you, and you're gonna respect the fact that you're not going to abuse whatever I'm giving you. And once you establish that connection with the cell, then you actually begin to teach the cell to listen to you and to actually be happy to be working for you. It's all these parasites could all be a zombie cell, where it's a cancer cell, or the cell could be taught and educated enough to know that it can function on another level and be so much happier, right? I don't think cancer cells are happy per se, because cancer cell wants to keep the host alive. And because if a host dies, that defeats the purpose of a leech, right? A parasite cannot sustain itself on a host that is dead, right? So think about this. It's once you tell the parasite that you're coaching him now into existing more in unison with the whole system, be more in a state of in coherence with the whole ecosystem, the parasite doesn't really have to leave. I mean, you don't really have to call it a parasite. Just call it a cell. Call it a cell that is not being educated enough, or not been disciplined enough, or not be a cell that is rebellious, right? A cell that is acting like a child, that is throwing a tantrum, right? So you could view it as that. And once you educate and are patient, you give that cell enough unconditional love, you coach it, you educate it, that cell will potentially serve you now. And now it becomes a more of a symbiotic relationship between you and those cells, right? Because you need all these microorganisms, all these different colonies of cells that live inside your body to be able to process all the food that you need, to be able to clean up your system, to be able to act as a healing, right? To know that the body has its innate ability to heal. You just have to peel all the layers and get to the core of things. Learn to evaluate and structure. I mean, sometimes a system needs to be completely destroyed in order for you to rebuild something new, right? Something that you're proud of, right? Something that it's your masterpiece, right? Your body. That's why bodybuilding is such a masterful discipline, is because you're so strict with yourself. You're so at the same time, you're very much coaching yourself through the whole process, and you're so disciplined, you're so stoic with the way you do things, that you're able to sculpt, something that is beautiful and aesthetic and pleasing to the eye, right? That is why there's always beauty in that. It's always beauty in seeing a master perform the mastery of them mastering themselves, right? You're always, when I see a master as somebody that has undergone this process of self-evaluating and self-mastering, that a master is able to see everything from the perspective of the timeless and of the spaceless, and the master becomes immersed into the one thing that they do, where their energy frequency is so high that anybody who is around a master could feel that impulse, to feel that energy, to feel that vitality, to feel that frequency that is healing for them, right? So anybody could spot a master. You just have to be able to tune yourself to the right frequency for the master to appear in front of you. And a lot of times I've seen, I have a story about a turtle that was my master a couple years ago. I have a story about a horse that I did some work with, that has presented himself as or herself, because it was a female horse. She was a master of mine as well. My dog Billy has many times turned into this ascended master that gave me these profound lessons. But it was when I was ready to receive those lessons, is when I was able to listen to the energy that was trying to be being communicated to me. Another, just to recap, environmental change could be another way that you could address doing something new. The fact that you might get bored if you put yourself through a challenge, and boredom is one of those things that you have to learn to sit with the feeling of boredom and not distract yourself, but really face your feelings and emotions and really feel them out. Know that you're safe in this present moment, to be able to feel something that maybe you ran away at the time. Maybe you didn't want to feel the feeling of fear because the situation was so intense. But now when you bring the situation now into the present moment, knowing that you're safe and you're creating the safe environment for yourself, you are able to feel that emotion and really release it from your body. That's why breath work is another great tool that could potentially tap into that. And there's so many tools. There are so many tools and so many ways to access that unconscious part of ourselves. Another way is realizing death and how the process of overcoming death, and actually it's very crucial to understand, because if you are in a stage of your life where, especially when you go from being a boy to becoming a man, there's definitely a phase in your life where you have to let go of your ideas as a boy, and in order for you to become a man, you must allow the boy in you to die. And it's almost like part of you dies in order for you to be reborn into something new, like a new version of yourself. So allowing the old version of ourselves to die is also a very peculiar process that it could be painful, could be very much for me, it was a process of learning to have faith. The process of dying is learning to really strengthen my faith, my connection to God, connection to Spirit, and allowing my old version to die so a new version could come forth. Understanding that anytime I make a change, it's going to be an energy shift in my immediate surrounding. Let's say I tell my family that I want to tackle this new change, right? Tackle this new diet, or have this fasting modality, or whatever the thing is. I have to acknowledge that if I make a change, my immediate environment would also be on some level influenced by my change. So if I imagine I am an ecosystem myself, I am also part of an ecosystem around the people that I'm at. And if I make a small change, a small shift in energy, there will be a small shift in energy in my immediate surrounding. Saying if I make a small change, maybe my immediate surrounding would need to compensate for the change that I'm making, right? Maybe I say, hey, I can't really take the kids from school. I can't really pick them up from school because I need this extra 30 minutes to spend on myself in order to allow my body to heal, or maybe meditate for 30 minutes. I need to dedicate my time on myself. So can you end up picking the kids so I have the extra time on myself? And that's just a simple example, right? And the spouse could potentially take on that role of taking the kids home. So you could maybe make that small change and have the time to yourself to do the exercise, or do the meditation, or do the diet, or whatever. And in a way, there's an immediate kind of like, okay, now the system needs to overcompensate for something that maybe you're not going to be doing for a while, or whatever the time is. Or maybe you're on a weird diet that your whole family is going to be eating other way, and they're going to feel kind of weird because maybe you don't have meals with them because you're now eating completely carnivorous diet where they feel like it's very strange, it's very radical, it's very extreme. But you think that that's something that's going to help you. It's a tool that you believe that will potentially show you the way, and you stick to your guns in doing that, but then you're still around that environment of people not supporting you. Let's say, for example, they make fun of you and all that stuff, and that happens in family. That happens all the time when somebody wants to heal and makes all these changes, but then they're in an environment that is very much not allowing. It's almost like the environment is resisting that change. And a lot of times the resistance is going to come from the people that are closest to you. So understanding the fact that once you make a change, that change in yourself is immediately going to affect your immediate environment and the people around you, and having a direct communication with them, learning how to compensate for whatever that's the change that's being done, to have the emotional support to 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 have the whole system evolve together, instead of them resisting the change, right? If you are so strong with your beliefs, and you know that this 30-day challenge is really going to be the one thing that you believe that, right? And your immediate environment doesn't want to make the change, doesn't want to adapt, they're fighting against you. You have to understand that if you keep going and you believe that you have good intentions, you believe all this stuff, eventually the whole system will catch on. Eventually the whole system will get used to your new change. But understand that in the crucial moment, at least at the beginning phases of that change, there will be a shift in energy, and there will be a lot of almost like, okay, now we're trying to figure out a new balance in this whole ecosystem. And we're all like, that's why a lot of times there's cases of a dad quitting drinking after being abusive alcoholic, and doing that for however many years and decades. They quit drinking. Now their sons or daughters, they end up picking up the habit and the drinking, because they want to recreate that dysfunction in the family that existed when the dad was around, and having been obliterated drunk, and having all these not accidents, but altercations, or whatever stressful environment that the dad's behavior was making on everybody else. Now when the dad is absent of that act of drinking, maybe somewhere in that system a kid will pick up a habit in the same way that the dad was, in order for them to bring the same feeling of dysfunction in the family. Otherwise, people feel strange if there's no dysfunction in the family. That is so sad, because so many families, they know that, oh, we're just fucked up, that's just how we are. And that ends up being passed on to kids, and potentially a parent changes their behavior, but then that behavior gets passed on to the child. So once we understand that the change requires everybody to take place, and everybody become educated about what's going on, everybody needs to become a worker. Is not going to participate in the system as efficiently if they don't know what the fuck's the whole purpose of the whole system, right? If I don't know what the vision and mission of a company is, it's going to be difficult for me. I could go through the motions, but I'm not going to have an understanding as to why I'm doing these repetitive actions, why I'm feeling so bored, why am I not feeling challenged, right? Why am I not feeling appreciated and all these things, right? So it's like, once I address the healing aspect as a multidimensional, knowing that the whole system needs to be educated and be kind of like be up for the change, right? Be up for the change. Yeah, it's a lot. Everybody needs to understand, and changes can be managed. They just require a lot of work and effort on all sides of the people included in the whole change. And yeah, that's what I kind of want to leave you guys with today. It's fucking almost 2 hours. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm actually blapping this long. I don't even know what to name this video. But let me know. I'll be posting this whole video on YouTube. Let me know if that was useful. If anybody even would spend the time watching this whole information, I don't even know if this is a value to anybody. It is definitely a value to me, because it is helping me connect and actually explain the experiences that I've been through. I have been going through the struggle of feeling uneasy in myself for the majority of my life, whether it's sickness, whether it's me abusing substances, abusing food, having the tyrant king operate in my life, and and being super strict with myself, not allowing myself compassion, and not really giving myself unconditional love because I grew up not having received that unconditional love, and allowing myself to go through these processes, and coming through on the other side and feeling an energetic shift in myself is driving me. Is actually, I had to question my desires as far as making these videos, and now the energetic shift in myself is actually the one that drives me into putting this information out there and making this information available to anybody that it could reach. And I just want to remind you that this information will find you when you are ready to receive it. Is when the student is ready, and I've put myself in the student phase throughout this whole learning process of myself, and I have to acknowledge that when the student is ready, I could say that as a fact, because when I was ready to receive information, the masters would appear in front of me in many different ways, and I know this is true because I have experienced that. And I want to remind you that this information will find you when you need it, when you're ready to receive it, when you're ready to digest it. Be easy on yourself with this healing journey. Know that we're all holding hands, walking our step. We all have to go through the process of death. No matter if you're a king or a street sweeper, we all have to dance with death. We all have to learn to cope with it. Understand the process of shedding, detachment, learning to detach from material things, seeking the bigger aspect of life, connecting to the whole essence of ourselves, and really energetically functioning on a level where we are thinking collectively instead of egotistically thinking about ourselves. We are collectively thinking about all beings. And with that, I want to wish you guys a very pleasant day. Connect to yourself using the breath as a tool to bring the spirit and your essence into connection. Align yourself to what you say, to what you speak. Have those intentions. Ask yourself what those intentions are. Allow yourself to be okay with not being able to help somebody. Maybe it's not your place to help anybody. Maybe you thinking you need to help somebody is a chance for you to seek deep within yourself and seeing how you can help yourself. Because everything happens in your environment. We think that we can help other people or give them an advice. But when the situation is so extreme where you have no control of it, then the only way we can really help the situation is by looking inside of us. Quit blaming external things for the way your life is. Quit blaming the government or the people in place. Learn that once you operate from a different place, the whole change starts from inside of you. And once the change begins from inside of you, that has a ripple effect on everything else around your life. Immediate people will see the shift. They will feel it. Parents, family, people that you talk to, they'll feel the shift if they knew the old version of yourself. And let that be a driving force behind your growth. Follow your life the way that learn to listen to your signs, your intuition, your body, your capabilities, your instincts, and learn to honor yourself in a way that your life depends on it. Your life depends on you honoring, loving yourself, trusting yourself, and valuing yourself. That is where the shift happens. That is when you could affect the rest of the pieces of the mandala, not only within your core essence of yourself, but within the core essence of your surroundings as well. So, and let that message find you guys well. I love you. Know that you have the power to overcome anything placed in front of you, and let the moments of hardship only remind you to strengthen your faith. Have the faith in whatever that energy that gave you life, that gave you creation, and the more you're able to tap into that energy of the abundance and the energy of the unlimited, the more you can bring what you want in your life. And until next time, I love you guys. Bye bye.